Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simple Little Life. Today I've got a really quick, a very informal video for you, but we're gonna do some little experimentation. I just finished doing this knife here and I'm really pleased with it. This is I call it the Father Hunter. It's in CPM 154 with Koa, the scale material. The only problem I'm finding is that I've got little cracks in the Koa. We're gonna readjust so you can actually see it, but let me show you this. Okay, so this has been stabilized. It is stabilized Koa. So you see all these little cracks in here? I mean, I think that's just kind of part of like some of the natural voids in the wood. I've never worked with Koa before. I don't know if this is a common thing. I'm thinking that good quality. I mean, I paid for this set of scales. Just basically it was enough to do just this. I barely squeezed these out of here. It was $35 US. So I would think they would be good, but you see those cracks? Oh man, what a heartbreak. And in there, and that obviously has nothing to do with anything that I've done. It's just natural voids in the wood. And then here's the other side. You see we have them in there as well. There's a real bad one right there. Oh man, those are a heartbreak. The colors in this. This is an amazing wood. You see how it kind of changes right there? So what I'm going to try and do, and this is something that I found on a forum, a woodworking forum, is a lot of guys say that you take your finishing oil or CA glue, which is like super glue. I'm not going that route because I never really noticed how bad those cracks were until after I put on my first coat of Danish oil. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm like hooped. But as it turns out, what a lot of guys will do is they'll say put several coats of your Danish oil, let it soak in well, and then put another coat on and wet sand it with the oil. And the idea is that all the little pieces of wood that you're pulling up that would normally be dust, those will fill in that void and then harden and dry up with the Danish oil. So I'm really interested to see if that's gonna work, because Danish oil is an amazing finish. I really like it. There's a lot of good ones out there, but I like to use Danish oil. So we're gonna see if that does indeed work. Let's get on it. All right, so we've got it back in the vise. I've got 3 coats on here so far. There's even little cracks here. Oh, yeah. And I guess we're gonna try this and see if it works. So after 3 coats of Danish oil, put another coat on, and now we're gonna sand with this coat on. Oh man, that stuff looks so good. I love the look of that wood. Now what I'm starting with here is a 600 grit. I actually sanded this whole thing up to, well, 2000. We went 2000 grit. I came off the grinder at about, what was that, 220, I think, on the grinder. And then hand sanded it up from there. Basically, I went 400, and then to 800, and then to 1000, and then to 2000. And not necessarily because of any theory I have about working those things, but more just that that's the sandpaper I have. Oh my word, that is filling it up. But that is actually doing what I was hoping it would do. Okay, well, we're gonna let that dry up a bit. Look, it actually has filled that in. Now let's do this side real quick. I tell you, this is gonna be one of those tricks that if this works, I'm gonna be kind of surprised. Oh my word, I gotta see if I can get this on film. This is incredible. I'm gonna grab a different camera. Okay, so we tried getting some zoom in here. Hopefully you can see. You see we've got that void right there, right? This was actually one we just filled. We've got some right in there. So, put a good slathering of the Danish oil on there. And then, you see the void there? Look at that. Do you see that? That is filled in. Holy moly. You can see that, can't you? Like legit. So we've got another one. I don't know if that's one there or not. It is legitimately filling in those cracks. That is cool. That is cool. Okay, again, I think we need to do this in several steps, but you can totally see that. Oh, I missed one right here. You see that? It's actually filling it in. Wow, that is so cool. That is so cool. So these cracks have all been filled in with the dust that we just sanded. And again, we're gonna kind of let this dry, let it soak in a bit. Maybe do this a few more times, but I hope you see that. That is cool. That is pretty neat. All right, so I've done a couple rounds of that. And what I'll do is I'll dip my finger in the oil, slather it on here so it's nice and thick. And then I've gone to a 400 grit sandpaper. And this little crack right here, if I can get my camera to do its thing, that was big enough for me to catch my fingernail on, and it doesn't now. So I think this is looking fairly promising. And I'm gonna do probably 1 or 2 more rounds tonight, letting it kind of dry in between. And then I'll come check tomorrow. Hopefully we've gotten rid of all these little cracks and snags. And then we should just be able to work up through the grits again and get this thing all sanded out nicely. So I hope it works, because I like this knife right here. Anyways, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've put our final few coats on. We've sanded it back up to 2000 grit and then put a few more coats of Danish oil on, let it soak in. Let me show what we got. So you can see these voids aren't entirely completely filled in, but they're pretty good. They're way better than they were, and they're really solid, so they're not gonna be snagging on stuff. And just look at the way that wood, the light moves within that wood. It's amazing stuff. And there we go. So it still looks like there's cracks in there, but you barely, like these ones I can't even feel with my fingers. And we definitely filled them up, and we got that oil in there, and I think it's pretty good to go. Now I guess that's the one thing when you're using natural materials, is that you never really know what is inside that slab. Like those blocks of koa that I bought, they were like premium stabilized koa. I think it's 35, 40 bucks I think I paid for a little tiny block. And it was at the thickness that I used it at, so basically I just cut it in half, glued it to the knife, and then it wasn't until we started shaping it and getting into it that I found those voids. And natural materials are like that sometimes, and you have to have a workaround. I do think next time what I would do is take some of the sawdust that I had and maybe either epoxy. I've heard people use super glue, and try doing that. But what I was concerned about was that because I had already started with a coat of Danish oil, I didn't know how well those would bond. You know, if the Danish oil had started to get into the wood there. So that's why I thought, you know what, I did some research, and a lot of people said Danish oil works great. People use true oil, that gun stock oil, and they say they have great results with it. And honestly, I think it turned out really, really well. I'm very, very happy. I was so heartbroken. I was like, oh man, this thing has voids in it, and you could feel it when you held it. It wasn't good. And I was just like, what am I gonna do? I don't want to give up these scales. They're gorgeous. And it turned out pretty good. So anyways, live and learn. And I guess that's the big thing too, is I don't do an awful lot of wood scales. I use a lot of synthetics, and those are incredibly predictable. Some of the homemade micartas are a little bit iffy at times. But you know, when you buy like factory made, like really good micartas, and or a guy that really knows what he's doing well with his micarta, you get great results, and it's very predictable, very consistent. You grind into it and you know there's not going to be any surprises. But it's nice to know that we have a little workaround if we do find them in wood. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.